I mean, and again, even though he won, Jalen Hurts, he only threw for 167 yards, right? He had 30 attempts. He completed only 17, so just over half. Are those numbers eye-popping and incredible? No. But what is impressive is he rushed for 18 times for 106 yards. He was able to get long third downs by using his legs. He was able to create confusion on the defensive side of the ball because they had to constantly be worried about him running out of the pocket. So I will say, look, there is a lot to be desired in Jalen Hurts' game. But for now, it's getting the job done. It's good. Welcome to the ChadBurn Show, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin. Welcome to the ChadBurn Show. I am your host, ChadBurn, and we are back at it for another episode of the ChadBurn Show, episode 62, following week 14 in the NFL. That's right, we are getting to the final round of these games where it's starting to mean something. That's right, teams are playing for the playoffs, playing for a divisional position, trying to either scratch their way back into the wild card area now that there is an extra wild card slot for the playoffs, or trying to secure the first or second seed. Obviously, we know that the Chiefs have secured their place in it. We're going to see what other teams could come in to take their spot in the playoffs. Also, for those at home that watch football and are dedicated football fans, it is that time of year for fantasy football playoffs. I know I'm lucky to be in both of my leagues in the playoffs, so we are getting close to it and hopefully scratch out some more wins as it comes along. But besides the fun victories at home, it was a great week of football in the NFL. Lots of great stuff to watch, lots to uncover, unwrap. We picked our 4 top games that we're going to be going over for our NFL storyline segment for week 14. And miraculously, we have some good news for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right, they won a game. And we're going to be breaking down every part of that, from the switch at quarterback to the odd change in play calling style to the defense coming up big for the Philadelphia Eagles. All of that as they toppled down the 10-2 New Orleans Saints. It was shocking. It was surprising. It was awesome. All of that. And I had a lot of doubts heading into that game. So we're going to get into all that, my take on it, the take on Jalen Hurts and his performance, and really just where the Eagles stand after that win and how it'll affect really the kind of strategy for the team going down the road. But before we get in that, I'd be remiss if we didn't hit on some awesome stories week 14 in the NFL. So the first game I want to highlight in Week 14 of the NFL is between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dolphins. Not a matchup you'd normally think of here, but the Dolphins are sitting at 8-5 and are a pretty decent team. Yeah, they're 8-5 after that loss to Kansas City Chiefs, but it's been one where you thought maybe the Dolphins could pull this one out against them. Maybe they could give a little test to Patrick Mahomes since the defense has been doing pretty well, and could it be a trap game for the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, it wasn't, and I kind of gave that away earlier, but the Chiefs would come out on top winning it. However, they did have a little scare early on, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight this one. Early in the game, Patrick Mahomes, in the first quarter, threw 2 interceptions and had the Chiefs down 10-0 to the mighty Miami Dolphins. Not something you would normally see every year, but the Miami Dolphins were on top of the Kansas City Chiefs 10-0, picking off Mahomes twice and forcing, in between those 2 picks, a 3-and-out. That's right, the Kansas City Chiefs offense did not look like they normally do. There was even, I believe, a thought for a while that maybe this was going to be the ultimate of all trap games, and the Miami Dolphins could come out on top with Tua Tagovailoa leading down that offense to score. Unfortunately, after that 10-0 lead, the Kansas City Chiefs would get back into it with a lot of force. That's right. First, you'd get Tyreek Hill with a 32-yard end-around rush to score a touchdown. Then you'd follow it up by a Travis Kelce touchdown to take a 14-10 lead going into halftime. And then it would just keep going on from there. The defense would not hold up later in the second half. And at one point, the Chiefs would get all the way up to get a 33-27 lead. We did at one point think the Dolphins could come back. They had a chance late in the game after scoring a field goal to cut the lead at 33-27. They attempted an onside kick, but the Chiefs were able to get it and stand on the ball and then be able to run at the clock. But really, between the end of the first half till I would say, the fourth quarter, where the Dolphins started chipping away at that lead, it really felt all Chiefs. They really started getting their groove. But it was, at least for a time, a test for them. The Dolphins have been impressive all year. I think we got to give a lot of kudos to the head coach, LaFleur, there, who's come out really as, we thought this would take a few more years to develop. We thought there'd be a lot more involved for this team to kind of get back up there and be a competitive team. But it only took them, I'd say, 2 seasons for him, and he's got his quarterback. Tua, looked a little frazzled in the second half, but is still able to perform to a level to get his playmakers involved, to be able to march down the field between the 20s and to, at least put them in position to score on most drives. Gesicki was obviously the big benefactor early on with getting lots of yardage on the tight end position and scoring for them. He would end up hurting his arm. Still more reports to figure that one out. Devontae Parker will also go out injured, but you had, what was it? I think it was also Gasick, however you pronounce his name, the running back, who was unfortunately off for COVID list. So, the Dolphins were battling a lot of injuries on offense, but luckily their defense kept them in close. And, 10-0 is nothing to, look away from. They actually did pretty good in controlling the Chiefs throughout the early half. But as we mentioned, once you get Tyreek rolling, once you get Kelsey involved, Patrick Mahomes starts doing his thing, it's tough to stop that team. And it just starts, unloading after that point. I think they also had a pick six in that one, the Kansas City Chiefs. So, they did everything they could on the defensive side of the ball, offensive side as well. But got to give kudos to the Dolphins. Impressed to see where they're at right now in the season. And I think a lot of good things to come from them in the years to come as Tua develops into a great quarterback. Going to be excited to see them unfold. But that was a good one. Obviously, again, Kansas City Chiefs on top, 33-27 against the Miami Dolphins. The next 2 games that we're going to highlight are going to be games that were impactful to the division of the AFC South. The battle between the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. First up, Tennessee Titans took on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this game had nothing really of interest to note. We did not want to have to cover this because, it wasn't a close game. It was actually a blowout. But the reason you cover this game, not just because of the divisional implications in a very tough AFC South, but because King Henry put on another performance. The man is dubbed King Henry for a reason. He is the leading rusher in the NFL and might bring back-to-back rushing titles from last year and this year. Derrick Henry would go in this game and do it for 26 carries for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, with one of them being a beautiful 47 rush to the end zone where he's a cut back through the hole and just go one-on-one with the safety, and we all know how that ends. It ends with King Henry in the end zone. He also was able to get another, 30-yard rush later in the game and break up with a cutback across the field and get pushed out of bounds as he was heading towards the end zone. But he could not be denied in this game. The Jacksonville Jaguars had no answer for Derrick Henry. They also had no answer for A.J. Brown, who is becoming an elite wide receiver in this league. The 2 wide receivers in that draft class were DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, who right now are just exploding on the scene in the NFL. And A.J. Brown dazzled early in this game with an incredible one-handed grab in the end zone from Ryan Tannehill. It was just beautiful. A.J. Brown did not, disappoint in this game with 7 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunately, I believe A.J. Brown later in the game did get an injury, and we'll see how that kind of unfolds into the next week and if he'll be out later in the next few games. But for right now, the Tennessee Titans are rolling in both the passing and the rushing game. And when you have a Derrick Henry posting up 200-plus yards a game, you're going to be safe. The Tennessee Titans defense will end up holding the Jacksonville Jaguars just to 10 points. But at least on the Jacksonville Jaguars side, you saw the return of Gardner Minshew. Yep, Gardner Minshew's back after Mike Glennon could not get it done. Glennon would start the game off 13 of 23 for 85 yards and 1 interception. Minshew would come in to relieve him, going 18 of 31 for 178 yards and 1 touchdown. Granted, by the time Minshew came in, this game was long done. But it was cool to see Minshew get back on there, and for all the Jacksonville Jaguar fans who, got caught up in the Minshew mania. You got your guy back. Let's see if you can start doing something with it. But the Jaguars continue to falter as the season rolls on. They just do not seem to have answers for these teams that they're going against. They're not really competitive right now. They're falling back into the old form of the Jacksonville Jaguars before they saw success with their dominant defense. But, it's a tough one for them. They're in the AFC South. They're going to have to deal with the Colts and the Titans consistently. Those teams are really built for the long run and to have success and sustained success over the next few years. But we got to look at the stats. Ryan Tannehill, 19 of 24 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, King Henry, man, the 215 yards for 2 TDs, just insane. Titans led at 17-3 at the half and then would not be denied, putting it out of reach with a 31-10 lead overall. I mean, this is an important game for them. This is they had to beat a division team in the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have to keep winning to hold off the AFC, the South contender in the Indianapolis Colts. They have just, this has been a back and forth between them and the Colts. They do lead in the tiebreaker, but this is going to be a close one all the way through as they battle it out for the next few games to try and remain on top and get the obviously home field advantage with the division win rather than taking the wild card. But the Titans have to continue to play well because the Indianapolis Colts would also dominate their opponent this week. The Colts would play the Colts end up playing the Las Vegas Raiders, I'm about to say the Houston Texans, but they took on the Las Vegas Raiders, and this one was also not close. The Colts would win 44-27. Now, the Colts, like we said, they have to keep winning, too, to keep up with the Tennessee Titans. If the Titans win, Colts got to win. I mean, they are just staying neck and neck all the way through. But T.Y. Hilton, who, if you are a fantasy manager that drafted T.Y. Hilton earlier this year, like me, and thought that T.Y. Hilton could still get production, you were sorely disappointed early on in the few weeks. You thought this is over. Pittman's taking on. The rush game is going to be a central focus of this. Any passing is going to need Nyheim Hines, Pittman. You just didn't see T.Y. Hilton getting involved. Trey Burton also as a tight end was getting receptions. So T.Y. Hilton just disappeared in the offense. But over the last 2 games, he's come alive. In this one, he had 5 receptions for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just dominating them again, grabbing the jump ball, being able to get open on the routes, just showing his skill as an elite wide receiver. I mean, I don't know where he's been, but he seems to be coming alive now and developing that relationship with Phillip Rivers that we had hoped would have developed already. But here it is. You also had for the Colts in this one, not only a great wide receiver coming alive with T.Y. Hilton, but a dominant performance on the running game. Jonathan Taylor, the draftee from Wisconsin, is completely coming into his own now. He ran for 20 carries for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. At one point, this backfield for the Indianapolis Colts was a backfield of committee. You were riding the hot hand, whether it was Taylor, Wilkins, Nyheim Hines. You knew that, you couldn't rely on one of them being a dominant back. But Jonathan Taylor, the last few weeks, has kind of brought back some of the amazing power, speed, vision that we saw earlier in the season where, he had a couple big games for over 100 yards. He disappeared in the middle, but now is coming back into his own, becoming the running back that the Colts hope he would develop into. Nyheim Hines is still obviously part of the passing game play. He's going to get some carries. He's going to be there on third downs, especially third and long. And when they get down in points, they're going to keep Hines on the field in order to, continue to be able to pass the ball. But Jonathan Taylor's starting to get receptions. He's getting it rolling on the running game. And the offensive line is developing big gaps for him to gash through the defense and take it to the second level. So it's impressive to see Jonathan Taylor come his own. So the Colts were able to just dominate this game from start to finish with good defense and a great running game. The pass game came along. Phillip Rivers did end up passing 19 of 28 for 244 yards and his 2 touchdowns, obviously, to T.Y. Hilton. But you also have to look at the defense because they also were able to get a fumble off the Raiders and get an interception for a touchdown. I mean, at that point, it was just over. The game was pretty close up till halftime, 20-14, where Colts were leading. But, the second half is where they absolutely exploded. Looking at the stats here, they end up scoring 2 touchdowns in the third to get a 34-20 lead. And then with that interception for a touchdown by the defense, they capped it off with 44-20. Derek Carr, going 31 for 45 for 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That one obviously costly, going for a pick 6. They would get another touchdown to kind of cut down the lead as it ended at 44-27, but it was just not enough. Josh Jacobs, who trolled most of the fantasy managers out there by saying he would not be playing and then obviously suiting up and being active, didn't get much production anyways. 13 carries for 49 yards. Aguilar had himself a game again, 5 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. But it just wasn't enough. The Las Vegas Raiders have been a really great surprise, a great story for this year. They seem to be developing an offense that we expected them to have under John Gruden, and Derek Carr kind of went back to the form we expect to see from him from the big contract he got several years ago. He's had a bit of a slump over the last 2 years, but finally coming back into looking like a top-tier quarterback. With weapons like Darren Waller, Nelson Aguilar, and Josh Jacobs, you assume the Raiders are going to be in most of these games. Unfortunately, this one just got out of hand. The Colts have an excellent game plan. They are scheming well at every one of their opponents. The defense is able to keep the score low against their opponents, so the Colts can just, in this one, they really only needed to score 20-plus points. They were able to get more than that, obviously, and this is what really, made it unattainable for the Las Vegas Raiders. But the Colts have been playing really well. Just impressive to see. Again, this is making the AFC South, kind of division run so exciting because both the Titans and the Colts are playing at such a high level right now. Whoever is going to represent that division is going to be very tough in the playoffs. And obviously, the other team is going to make in the wild card. Like we said, there are now 2 wild card slots for each conference, so it's obviously more odds for the Colts to make it in, or the Titans, depending on who takes this division title. If they were both to win out, the Tennessee Titans would take division since they have the tiebreaker over the Colts. So the Colts need the Titans to lose one of them, and the Colts need to win out or just hope they get one more win than the Tennessee Titans. But I am loving to watch the AFC South because both these teams have been competitive. They've been fun to watch, and they have a fundamental strategy that is just so, it rocks at my core. I love good running football. I love a good running game. I love the ground and pound. I love when you have a big back, you have tough backs who are able to make big plays and help keep that offense rolling where you don't always have to rely on the pass. Some people love the big pass plays. I love great running plays. And both teams are having a great running offense, and they're having defenses that are able to solidify them in games and be tough against really strong opponents. The Colts obviously have the better defense, but the Titans have not been doing too bad either. Against the Jaguars, obviously, they completely dominate the Jaguars, completely upsetting Mike Glennon and taking Gardner Minshew for some serious issues. But the Colts have had an incredible defense. I love watching Frank Reich coach that team. I think they are going to be a great team for years to come. They obviously need to get a long-term quarterback because Phillip Rivers is getting up there in age and is not going to be there forever. But I think that's going to be a good team. The Titans are great. I'm just so excited to be getting closer to playoff football and to watch these guys develop into dominant teams. There's nothing better than this right now. It's just so much fun to watch this time of year for football and to see these teams really just fight and battle it out for a chance to represent their division. And the AFC South has been one of the most exciting rivalries to watch in the NFL this year. Not the NFC East. The AFC South. Of course, not the NFC East, but, I had to mention it because as a segue, we're now going to talk about the Washington football team versus the San Francisco 49ers. Because the Washington football team is now first in the NFC East after the Giants fall to the Cardinals in a crushing loss. The Washington football team proved once again that their front four can take on any offensive line in this league. They end up being the 49ers 23-15 with 2 different quarterbacks. Actually, 3 quarterbacks. They had one come in for 1 pass. But 2 quarterbacks. Alex Smith out with what appears to be calf tightness, leaving the game after only throwing 19 passes, completing 8 of them for 57 yards. Dwayne Haskins would come in 7 of 12 for 51 yards. Even the running game didn't get strong because Antonio Gibson was out. They went to J.D. McKissick, who would go for 11 carries and 68 yards. On the other side of the ball, Mullins, the quarterback for the 49ers, would at least get 260 yards off of 25 completions, 45 attempts with a TD interception. But the Washington front four were just in his face all day. Early on, we saw that the game was going to be pretty close. It was only a 7-0 lead for the 49ers going into half. but Washington would continue to get into it with a pair of field goals, cut it down to 6-7, and then right before the end of the first half, there was a fumble return for a touchdown by Chase Young to give them a 13-7 lead. After that, it would keep getting stronger and stronger as the defense would get another pick six by Kamara Curl, who would end the third quarter on a pick six to give the Washington football team the 23-point lead they needed. San Francisco would try and rally back and score a few points, just not able to get it done. But what we are seeing here is even in a crappy division like the NFC East, there is some promise and young talent in these teams that we need to keep an eye on. We need to keep checking them out because Chase Young and that Washington football team defensive line is incredible. And we, as an Eagles fan, we see an incredible defensive line every game, but this one on the Washington football team is elite. Like, we can talk about the development of the New York Giants defense. We could talk about how the Eagles defense is starting to come in and play a little bit better than we expected this year. But the Washington football team, I mean, that defensive line group is so good. It is so much fun to watch. They are just disruptive. They're able to get pressure on every play. Chase Young, who is a rookie this year, plays so smart, able to read the quarterback, get his hands up when he needs to, swat on the ball. As we saw, getting the fumble return for a touchdown. They're athletic. They just create fits for these offensive line where they just don't know what's going to come at them, and they don't really have the strength or the speed to slow them down. For a while, Kerrigan was just a monster out there, and now you have Chase Young on the other side. I mean, how do you get any rest? And if you're an offensive lineman, lining up across from these guys, there's no shot. I mean, Ioannidis is playing great out there. I can't remember the fourth on the line, but I mean, they are just dominant defensive football scheme right now. And, obviously we expected it with Ron Rivera taking over as the head coach, being a defensive-minded head coach. We knew that he was going to bring some toughness, some grit to that side of the ball. Unfortunately, the offensive side is not able to get the explosion, but when you get 14 points off of your defense, you don't need to do much on the offensive side of the ball. You just need to get down there, get a couple field goals as they did. If you can get one more score, that's going to be the key. Can the offense be able to score consistently as the defense holds off the other teams? If they can do that, I mean, they could be a decent enough team. The Washington football team is now 6-7. They could finish this season above 500. I mean, if they win out, they go 9-7. Their schedule is not that tough. I think they could beat the Eagles probably pretty easily. So there you go, another win at 7-7. I mean, this is a team I think that's going to, as I said before, last week we're kind of proclaiming that the New York Giants, after a big win over the Seattle Seahawks, could be the team to win the NFC East. I've said for a while now, I think the Washington football team has the talent to do it in such a poor division, and they continue to prove us right. I mean, that defensive front is what's going to keep those guys going for a while. Do I think they make a lot of noise in the playoffs? No, but could they get lucky with a home field advantage in the first round? Absolutely. I don't see why not. So we're going to see how it all plays out. Will the Giants recover next week after a terrible loss to the Arizona Cardinals? Will they be able to show that they are the team to beat in the NFC East? I mean, right now, Washington football team's got the lead. It's going to be tough to dethrone them at this point with, the Eagles are 4-8-1 now. Nothing happening there. Cowboys are 4-9. I mean, there's just it's just depressing. I mean, all the teams in the NFC East have a losing record. So we went from the AFC South and such an amazing rivalry and battle between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans and their battle to try and take the first place in the AFC South. And then we go to the NFC East where they're just hoping to get above 500 and a division win. It's not the same, folks. It's not the same, but, it's compelling football. There are some compelling storylines, so we need to cover it. We need to talk about those teams out there. And even if they're in a terrible division like the NFC East, it is still worth seeing who could possibly win and take it to the playoffs. Do I think that's really going to be a big win from it? No, but, worthwhile watching. And, as the Eagles win, maybe the Eagles can come. I don't know. We'll see how they do as the season progresses. But right now, Washington beating the 49ers 23-15, a big win for the NFC East leading Washington football team. And now it's that time. That's right. It's Eagles o'clock. It's time to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, and for a change, this week we're talking about a win, baby. That's right. They beat the Saints 24-21 with the new quarterback at the helm, Jalen Hurts. That's right. Jalen freaking Hurts. In a pretty impressive game where he was able to control the offense and get some production out of a unit that we have not seen them get any type of offensive groove this season under the leadership and stewardship of Carson Wentz. But in this one, they did. Now, what I will say early on is it was a pretty simplified offense. Like when I was watching this early on, one of my first calls to people and texting out to different people talking about the game is I thought this looked like a college offense. It looked like it was a college run offense against another offense that was basically being run like a college offense with Taysom Hill at the helm. But the Eagles, they were getting yardage. I think the big test for Jalen Hurts as we go down in the season is can he throw the ball downfield? We saw a couple nice plays develop where he was able to get the ball, maybe 15, 20 yards, and then it was able to turn into big chunk plays. But the average yardage per throw for Jalen Hurts in this game was about 5.6 yards. So, is it dinking and dunking? Sure. Did it get the job done? Yeah, it did. And, we can't complain at that point. The big issue we had between Carson Wentz over the last few weeks is that Carson Wentz has not been accurate with the ball. Again, coming from a huge Carson Wentz apologist, okay? I have believed in Carson Wentz for a long time. I still believe he can be a good quarterback in this league with the right system and, in fact, should be traded to thrive at another team. But he has just been terrible the last few weeks. At least I have stood by that. While standing up for Carson Wentz, I do believe he has been god-awful on this team and has really had a terrible season. So he had to be removed. Jalen Hurts needed to be in. I also believe that Doug Peterson did this way too late. Carson Wentz could have been benched 2 weeks ago, and we could have had Jalen Hurts in. But for whatever reason, Doug Peterson has some weird affinity to not wanting to hurt the feelings of Carson Wentz. And I would hope that Carson Wentz has thicker skin than that. I believe Carson Wentz should feel a little betrayed and a little upset at the organization. And I think the organization should feel foolish that after giving this man $100 million plus contract that they're now benching him. Yeah, Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson should feel embarrassed that that's the case and that they have failed at developing a young, talented stud of a quarterback into being an elite quarterback and franchise of this team. They have to go to now their second round pick in Jalen Hurts. They should be embarrassed as all hell about that. But at least as fans, we can watch some football that is exciting. In this game, we saw Jalen Hurts using his legs to, break down the plays. In plays that we saw Carson Wentz take a sack because there was no open wide receivers, in this situation, you have Jalen Hurts able to run the ball 5+ yards to be able to get a first down. That is the big change. Bad teams need quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts. They need quarterbacks that can move and run. Because often when you have a terrible line like the Eagles do, and again, now we have our 12th formation of an offensive line, 12th different formation with different players in different spots for this season, right? We are at week 14, and the Eagles have had 12 different lineups for their offensive line. So when you have a terrible, inconsistent offensive line like that, you need to have someone who is going to have to escape and be moving constantly. And luckily for him, he has an internal clock like none other, and he gets the hell out of this bad situation the second the play breaks down. And while a lot of the plays were simplified and had one receiver that the target was, there wasn't a lot of progression for Jalen Hurts to work through. I am impressed for the first time this entire season that Doug Peterson developed a game scheme around the talent he had on the field. He has a young quarterback who has not had a lot of experience in the NFL, who has come from a college system that's very simple, who has not been able to see very complex defenses in the NFL, and he simplified his offense. Again, this looked like a college offense. The way they ran the ball, the way the wide receivers moved, the design plays where you had design rubs, you had just really single, one wide receiver hot route with a backup wide receiver on the side. There just wasn't a lot of complexity to this team, and there wasn't a complexity to the play calling by Doug Peterson, but it got the job done against a very good Saints defense. Regardless of how the Saints offense plays right now with Taysom Hill at the helm, this was a very good Saints defense. That has been one of the top defenses in the league. And the Eagles with Jalen Hurts there was able to put up 24 points. Got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, and again, even though he won, Jalen Hurts, he only threw for 167 yards, right? He had 30 attempts. He completed only 17, so just over half. Are those numbers eye-popping and incredible? No. But what is impressive is he rushed for 18 times for 106 yards. He was able to get long third downs by using his legs. He was able to create confusion on the defensive side of the ball because they had to constantly be worried about him running out of the pocket. So I will say, look, there is a lot to be desired in Jalen Hurts' game. But for now, it's getting the job done. It's good. I don't think that Jalen Hurts is the elite solution. Again, this is only one game. The sample size is very small. We have not seen enough to make a strong determination about how Jalen Hurts is going to play over the next few years, right? Can he develop into a elite talent? Maybe. I mean, there's a possibility. There always is the possibility that a quarterback can surprise you as things go on. As of right now, I think there's still a lot that needs to get done to make Jalen Hurts and develop him into an NFL quarterback. But he is able to use his legs to get out of a lot of tough situations. I will say, though, because we also look in this game as well, Miles Sanders had 14 carries for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. So now I have to wonder, Doug Peterson, why did it take a quarterback change for you to start running the ball? I mean, Miles Sanders, I think, has only gotten a total over the last 2 games of 15, 16 carries? He hasn't ever rushed for more than 20 carries a game. And yet, for whatever reason, when Carson Wentz was struggling in the passing game, you decided to go crazy with the passing more on every down in yardage for every situation rather than run the ball. Even though you're running for 5.6 yards per carry and your average passing yards net gain over the entire season was less than a yard of that, was almost 4 yards. So what was the plan, Doug, to not start running the ball until Jalen came in? I mean, maybe it was all because they believed Jalen Hurts was going to need more support from the team, was going to need more weapons around him. But why wasn't they running the ball more before this? Clearly running the ball works. Like, I don't even care who's at quarterback at this point. Doug, why the fuck are you not running this ball more consistently all the time? This should be a run-first offense. And for the first time all season, we got to see it unfold against a great Saints defense, and man, did it pay off. Miles Sanders broke for a big one in this game. And we just saw consistently after every down, we were able to pound the ball and be able to get yardage after yardage. We sprinkled in some throws there, and they took some opportunities when they had it because obviously the defense is on their heels when you're running the ball so effectively. But, they weren't all successful, and Jalen Hurts has a lot to, he has to clean up for the big plays and getting his arm strength there. But, when they needed a quick pass dump off, he was able to do it with accuracy. But again, this whole Doug Peterson baffles me. He baffles me because while I'm happy we won, while I'm happy that Jalen Hurts had a good game and Miles Sanders finally came to the front and was killing it, I just still don't get Doug Peterson's play calling in this whole, even in this game. What happened to? He clearly is allergic to punting the ball because we went forward on every 4th down. There was not an opportunity where we didn't go in for 4th down, and a lot of the 4th down calls sucked. So again, Doug Peterson is able to impress us with his terrible play calling. But even with his terrible play calling, Jalen Hurts was able to basically bail him out because he had consistent running game, was able to run outside the pocket and get yardage every time. So the plays were positive yardage consistently because of Jalen Hurts, not because of play calling of Doug Peterson. And again, he waited till now to actually start rushing the ball at a consistent clip. I don't get Doug Peterson at all this year. And I still think he has to answer a lot of questions, even with a win. If anything that makes me upset about the win is that maybe Doug Peterson's going to be here next year. I still think he's got to go. You got to get rid of Howie. You got to get rid of Doug. You keep Jalen Hurts as a possible backup to help out, and you hope you can get someone to develop Carson Wentz because, sorry, folks, we're stuck with that guy until we can actually trade him. I mean, unless the Colts are going to take that price tag for Carson Wentz, take that on and take some first-round picks and take him on their team, or 49ers, I guess, would be the other option. We're stuck with Carson Wentz right now, and we're going to have to figure it out. And so Doug Peterson, I think it's an indictment on you that you waited to run the ball when you finally switched to quarterback, never giving Carson Wentz any help in that situation with that kind of game plan. And, you got lucky in that Jalen Hurts is playing well right now. But that's it. I don't think the play calling is what's really giving us success here. It is clearly on the players around that are coming through for him. It's also amazing to see that when Jalen Hurts is out there, Alshon Jeffrey looked good. Wide receivers are getting open, getting separation, catching the ball and making plays. Rager looked great on an end-around rush. Rager looked great in open field. Ward was catching the ball. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey for a touchdown. I mean, it's just impressive to see how this team responds the second Carson Wentz is out and a quarterback like Jalen Hurts is out there. They seem to up their game, and the defense as well. The defense finally getting turnovers on the other side of the ball, being consistently getting on top of them with a turnover on the quarterback, interceptions. I mean, they played great. Duke Riley for the interception return was insane off Kamara. You had just the fumble off of Taysom Hill. I mean, 5 sacks, I think, was a total in the end by the defense. I mean, they played excellent. So great stories on the offensive side of the ball with the wide receivers and tight ends coming alive, the running game finally happening, Jalen Hurts playing well, the defense killing it with the sacks, with the turnovers, with the consistent pressure on the running backs, not allowing them to get much down the field. They played excellent. And the only thing that I can note of being really crappy here on the player side, not talking coaches because there's plenty of BS coming from Doug Peterson in this, even in the win, you can it's insane. How, even when the Eagles win, I am still frustrated and wanting to roast Doug Peterson. It's crazy. This guy just gets under my skin. But sorry. So even after all that and the bonehead plays called by Doug Peterson, I mean, it was a good game. So stat lines here, Taysom Hill, obviously 28 of 38 for 291 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Alvin Kamara, only 11 carries for 50 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Michael Thomas for 8 receptions and 84 yards. Now, even with all the good stuff, 17-0 at the half, Eagles controlling the game, the Saints were able to battle back, cutting it to 17-14 in the third quarter. Once the ball was once the ball was moved over to the Saints had an opportunity to try and take the lead. That's when the big fumble came for the Eagles, and they were able to strip the ball from Taysom Hill on a short field situation. Then Jalen Hurts and team goes down to score, making it 24-14. Late, though, and this is where Jalen Hurts is going to have to get better at this. There was one mistake by the rookie that was huge and almost cost this team. Jalen Hurts fumbles the ball late in the fourth quarter, giving the Saints another opportunity after the defense stopped them on the strip before stop them and not allowing them to score. The Saints then get the ball back, march down the field, and score a touchdown, making it 24-21. So again, Jalen Hurts is going to have to learn in those situations, the ball security is key. He cannot lose the ball. He can't put the ball in risk. Either get down on the ground, slide, dive, whatever you got to do in order to keep the ball secure and make sure you're not taking unnecessary hits and putting the ball at risk and in play. Jalen Hurts is going to learn how to get better at that, and that will come with time and coaching. But that was a big issue, and that could have been huge for this team. So while the Eagles are winning this game, there were still a lot of things we need to talk about. Oh, and on special teams, after that play, the Saints score is 24-21. The Saints go for an onside kick doing the crazy kind of, the Dallas kick we're calling it now, where they're able to kick the ball on its side and we get spinning and hoping that it rotates into player. The Eagles, much like when the Cowboys came back against the Falcons with that weird onside kick, the Eagles, again, just hold back and wait for the ball to cross the 10-yard line. What is going on in this league that professional football players do not understand the rules for an onside kick? If you are the receiving team, you can get the ball wherever it is. You do not have to wait for it to go across the 10-yard line. Stop, for the love of God, waiting for the ball to come to you when the other team is rushing at you and looking for a mistake to jump on. Because that's what almost happened. Because the Eagles, for whatever reason, are poorly coached from top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams, They decided to wait for the ball to come across 10-yard line and end up hitting the leg of an Eagles player and almost ending up in the arms of the Saints. That would have been crucial because the Saints would have been within a 10 yards of having a field goal opportunity, and the Eagles could have lost that game. The Eagles tried to find every way to lose this game, and luckily they did not. But someone on the special teams coaching staff, please, for the love of God, teach them how to do an onside kick. It's not that complicated, and it should be easy to teach them. Just dive on the fucking ball the second it gets close to you. Stop waiting. You don't have to wait. They do. The kicking team needs it to cross 10-yard line or wait for you to fuck up, which you almost did. Oh, that was so aggravating. I could not believe the Eagles almost made the same mistake as the Falcons after we watched that unholy breakdown of all busted breakdowns of a team give up to the Cowboys. What was that, week 2, week 3 in the NFL? How can you not learn from those mistakes and implement? Oh. So anyway, the Eagles almost gave up this game, but luckily we were able to get the ball under the pile there and ice this one out. But it could have been a bad one. It really could have been. In the end, though, the Eagles rushed the ball 36 times. They passed the ball 30 times. First time in the season that they have run the ball more than they've passed it. It is a great sign for things to come. You hope that Doug Peterson's going to learn from this, that he's going to rely on his running game, and that he's going to pound the ball for the rest of the few weeks. Granted, defenses will now be able to see film on Jalen Hurts. They're able to scheme for him. They're playing against the Arizona Cardinals, who have in themselves also a dynamic rushing quarterback who is able to just dice teams up with great throwing accuracy and excellent speed. They are going to know how to cover Jalen Hurts. They see it in practice every week. So we're going to see if he's going to be able to be as dominant and controlling of the offense as he was against the Saints. Those are the key things, control and confidence. He ran that team well. Will he be able to do it again next week? I'm hoping so, just for Eagles to have success. You want to see it. And hopefully Carson Wentz is going to be humbled by watching Jalen Hurts continue to have success, because the same weapons are out there for Jalen Hurts as they were for Carson Wentz, and he was able to beat a very good defense with the 10-2 Saints. So while the quarterback change needed to happen, it was impressive to see the running game. There's a lot to unpack on the coach side. We've hit on that. But obviously the big takeaways. Great first start by Jalen Hurts. Very proud of him. An amazing job. He deserves all the credit for it. It's not easy to come in midway through the season, take over for a franchise quarterback, and implement a new offense and be able to be successful at that. So great on him. Great job to Miles Sanders. Amazing job. 115 yards, as we said, the 2 TDs, proving again that he deserves the ball more and should be the focal point of this offense, much like we see in those AFC South rivals we talked about in both the Indianapolis Colts and Tennessee Titans, who highlight their running backs with excellent scheming. Hopefully Doug Peterson will do on that. Defense showed up, winning the turnover battle. It was finally going to happen. They did it. They win the plus margin for the turnovers. That's exactly what we need to see. We know they can get pressure on the quarterback, but the turnovers were key, and it was amazing to see that. 4, almost still lost it. Eagles always find a way to lose it, but they were able to win this one. And a 5th observation in that game is Doug Peterson still has no idea what he's doing. I will refuse to give credit of this win to Doug Peterson. Refuse to. Because he almost lost it for us with boneheaded 4th down plays. His unwillingness to run the ball until this game, and his inability to coach this team up. So that's my thoughts on it. I'm proud of the Eagles win. I'm proud to see them finally do it. It was a great team win, an excellent job, and let's see them continue to do that for the next few weeks and give us some excitement, some hope going into next season. And with that, folks, we're going to wrap this show up. Episode 62 of the ChadBurn Show. I want to thank everyone again for joining in and listening to me, kind of cover the Eagles. Glad to be passionate about the Eagles for other things other than them losing. Great to see them pull out a win here. I think we're going to see some fun football coming from them with a run-first offense. Finally, Doug Peterson listening, I guess, maybe to the show, but finally running the damn ball. Great Week 14 storylines across the league, seeing dominance there. as we kind of get towards the end of the NFL season, we are obviously focusing on the Eagles. We're going to focus on the postseason, but there are some awesome storylines coming out of the other sports leagues, with the NBA especially starting up soon. They've been playing some preseason games, loving to watch them ball out. James Harden controversy. Will he end up on the Philadelphia 76ers? Will he go to the Brooklyn Nets, Milwaukee Bucks, Miami Heat? Who knows? Will the Sixers give up Ben Simmons and 3 first-round picks for James Harden? I don't know. I don't think I want that to happen. I'd love to see Ben Simmons finish the Sixers. But, man, to get James Harden, I might have to ship him off to Texas and hope he learns a Texas accent over an Aussie accent. But lots of stories there, too. We don't have time to cover them all. But, I think as the season progresses and we head into the NBA, we will start breaking down the 76ers, where they stand with the Doc Rivers taking the helm, a great new shooting squad on that team, excellent shooting guards, and will they get James Harden in the end on a big trade? So, like I said, bear with us if you're not a big football fan, but this is what we have to cover as of right now. Loving talking birds. We'll get into the 76ers later on. But thank you for continue to stick with us and listen to the show. We'll be back again next week. Until then, have a great evening and good night. Thank you for listening to the ChadBurn Show. Remember to check out all new episodes every Monday at 7 p.m. on Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all major platforms where you listen to your podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me and you want to send in your questions or requests for topics to discuss in the show, you can email chadburn.show@gmail.com. All episodes have video recorded, which is then posted to our YouTube channel, The ChadBurn Show. Be sure to subscribe to us where you get your podcast or on our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all our new content. You can also follow the show on Instagram at ChadBurn Show and on Facebook, The ChadBurn Show, to see clips from previously recorded episodes and information on all upcoming shows.